So the draft has happened. The offseason has happened. Free agency has happened. It's time to take a look over everything the Cleveland Browns have did during the offseason and start to review it, start to break it down, and start to talk about it. So that's what we're going to do in this part today. And I need help doing that. I need somebody to help me break this down and talk about all of this. So I brought help from 92.3 The Fan and his own YouTube channel, The Barbershop's own G. Bush. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, it's good to talk to you again, man. It's always a pleasure to get in and chop it up with you. So I'm really excited about this draft and definitely to get into it, what we can talk about today, man. Loving it.
Definitely. You know, I think that conversation we had before the draft on G. Bush's channel, make sure you subscribe to his channel, check it out. Link's going to be down in the description. But I had an interview on G. Bush's channel where we were talking about Shaun Wade's draft stock. We were talking about how much I love JOK, how much I like Greg Newsome. And it just so happened that conversation is very relevant to what we're going to be talking today. Shaun Wade's on the Ravens, so we're going to see him a lot. And hopefully we see him the same way Devonta Smith see him, with his back turned towards the offense.
Yeah. A little extra, a little OBJ. I hope that, get ready for you to be in your back pedal, man. We got a couple guys out there that run the route tree kind of nice. So
yeah, I hope they let him out there on a 101 with Jarvis Landry. If he couldn't handle Devonta Smith, I don't know how he's going to do Jarvis. But also, JOK, we talked about him pretty long there. I mean, that's going to be a large part of this discussion today. But let's start with the first round. The Browns got Greg Newsome, the corner out of Northwestern. I am a big fan of that pick. G, how do you feel about it?
Listen, I'm a huge fan of it. I had to do my research and go back and take a look at some stuff. And you look at Newsome, he was a guy who, when you look at not giving up third down conversions and catches, you look at a guy who does not lack any confidence as a corner. And people weren't testing him like that. You go back and watch him play against the Ohio States, go play against some of those big name teams. People weren't testing him like that. So when you look at it from a situation of Newsome, I think this is something that could be really looked at. That's super dope. And I think that they got the corner. They got who they needed. Now you don't have the pressure on the Greedy Williams. Now you don't have the pressure on some of these other guys that you might want to come back healthy. You got the corner that you needed. You solidified that position, and you were able to go on top of that and get something else other than that outside. And get JOK as well. So we were thinking at the beginning, hey, we might not be able to get JOK even if he's still there. But the way the draft felt, you're able to get the corner, you're able to solidify things. And then on top of that, you're able to still go get the linebacker, which makes Newsome look even better. Greedy can come along a little slower. Even if he doesn't come back 100% or is not 100% until maybe the middle of the year, you still got an opportunity to go out and get a guy who can be a lockdown corner, as well as a guy that's going to be able to give you some support in terms of your depth and your numbers if you don't have guys come back as soon as you would like.
Yeah, another interesting thing, I think you kind of brought it up a little bit, but I want to talk about it a little bit more there, is Greedy Williams, right? There are a lot of people in this fan base still believe in Greedy. Greedy was a first-round talent, fell to the second round in his draft, but he's had injury history, and now he's going to be in that battle with Greg Newsome, and also, Troy Hill's on the roster. He can easily play the outside corner position because he's done it before in the NFL at a high level. So with that being said, what is the future for Greedy Williams as far as the training camp period goes? And what does Greedy have to do to make sure that his NFL career still looks healthy?
One of the things I took a little bit a look back at Greedy Williams per se. I went back and looked at some of the things he said during the season and talked about his health. One of the things that I unfortunately have from playing football is nerve damage. So, currently I still have 3 herniated discs that are in my neck just from, playing football. And so basically those discs aren't operable at this point. So one of the things that you look at in terms of that is I know how nerve damage can be nerve wracking. I know how certain things can be very nerve wracking in terms of your nerve damage. So I'm not tackling anybody. Greedy Williams still has to get out there and tackle somebody. So when you hear Greedy Williams and people talk about him coming back, and the doctors have already said, you're looking at some of the last articles, the doctor have said, hey, Greedy might not have the ability to come back and do what he wants to do in those terms at a high level. He may be only get to be 80 to 85% back with the nerve. However, with nerve damage, you never know. It's week to week. And all it takes is one hit somewhere and another hit somewhere. And then all of a sudden you can't feel your arm. You can't, go out there and play. So for Greedy Williams, you want for the kid the most. You really want him to be able to come back and be able to, show what he can do and show what he did out of LSU, because everybody was excited about him. And I think in general, we're still excited about him. We just have to know how football works. And the statistics show that, you're going to hit somebody no matter what you are. And you can't think about it when you're going out there. You have to just play. So for Greedy, I think the big thing for him is coming out and saying, okay, I do have this injury, but I have to come out and play. I got to come out and be a guy that can play and do what I need to do. And so those are some situations that you definitely got to look at with Greedy Williams, that he can't come out and just be scared. Don't be scared. Come out and play. Come out and do what you need to do. And if you can do that, it'll give yourself an opportunity to play fast. I think when you look at Newsome and Greedy Williams, those are guys going to be competing all day, every day. Those guys are going to be competing every single day for that position out there. So he just has to come out and not think about the injury, and give himself an opportunity to get back into the fold, and to continue. Because at this point, it's about continuing career, not just starting. He needs to stick on this roster and compete for playing time if he wants his career to go and keep moving forward. And I think an injury-free year for him would be the best case scenario for Greedy Williams.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to round 2. The most popular round of the draft for the Cleveland Browns, it seems like, right? Because they love getting these guys. We just talked about Greedy, Grant Delpit, and now JOK. Now, again, there seems to be some kind of injury curse when you get those guys in the second round. The last 2 years or so, third time's the charm. But JOK, I mean, we talked about him when I was on your channel and on your show about how I just love the kind of player JOK is. From your perspective, kind of just tell us what you think about JOK, what makes him special.
Well, I think what really makes him special is he's today, he's now, he's what the new look is. And from a guy who played defense in college, I just like the strategy of the game. I love the strategy defensively of the game. And what makes him special is, now you don't need a linebacker that's 6'4" and 260 and 50 pounds. You don't need that. Just as some of the same ways you don't need huge nose tackles like, the Sam Adams and the Tony Saraguses of the world that just, are taking up these blocks. Everything is more catered to the passing game because the passing game is so dynamic. The passing game is so, prevalent right now. You got people throwing the ball all over the field. You got to have guys that can cover people. You got to have guys that can get out there. You got to have guys that can be versatile and not be a liability in coverage, and still be able to run from sideline to sideline. And so I think one of the things that he does is he's so special because he doesn't give you much in terms of a lack of tackling. So when you watch him tackle, he explodes through ball carriers. He gets ball carriers on the ground. He's physical. He's durable. And I think one of the things that you look at it is you have the best of both worlds with that now. Now you have a guy that you don't lose much in coverage in terms of covering tight ends or even slot receivers. And you don't lose that much in terms of run support and what he can do as far as getting ball carriers on the ground. So those two things are really special because now you can do a lot of different things with other people, right? I kind of talked about it earlier is, one of the things offenses try to do is they come up to the line of scrimmage and they need to check and see who's the Mike backer. They want to figure out where the free safety is so they can understand where the coverage is rolling. So when you're a quarterback and you're coming up to the line of scrimmage and there's a JOK out there or a Ronnie Harrison or a John Johnson or Grant Delpit, those guys are interchangeable. So you can switch it up theoretically where he could be a Mike backer one time. He could be dropping in the coverage as a safety. So now your pre-snap reads are thrown off a little bit. So when you have that versatility in the defense, it's just something that they'll be able to do and make it more difficult to diagnose what the Browns are doing, who's coming, who's dropping, and what coverage types are they in.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me remember the Romeo Cornell, or if we're really gonna get old school with it, like the Bill Belichick kind of ideal where we could just put everybody on the line of scrimmage, and you ain't gonna know who's going forward or backwards, and it's not gonna matter who's gonna go forward or backwards because it's a problem either way. And the Browns, they have one of those packages out there now where they can put everybody on the line of scrimmage and say, "Hey, you guess who's gonna be where." Because they got guys who can go forward and backwards multiple ways in this defense. And in a way, it's kind of this new experiment. I don't know if it's new necessarily, but I think the Browns are definitely taking it a step further than most other teams have. Like maybe the Chargers when they were still in San Diego that last year with like Derwin James when they had like 5 different good DBs. But the Browns are doing something, and by the way, that worked very good against Lamar Jackson. So, these are things to keep in mind if you're a Browns fan. But one of the things I see them doing is, look, you got to have positions to some point, but if you could take 5-6 guys and have them really just kind of run out there and be positionless, be hybrid, you can do a lot of things with that. And that's kind of what I see with this team going forward defensively, especially with JOK. Now you have a linebacker you can interchangeably use like that with the rest of your DBs, that now Joe Woods has a lot of room to get creative, and I'm interested to see where he goes. How do you think Joe Woods what do you think he's going to do with all this creativity and all this flexibility that he has? Do you think we're going to see the best out of him?
I was critical a little bit of Joe Woods last year, and a lot of people say, listen, he doesn't have, and talking to people throughout the industry at Pro Football Focus and some of the other places who come on the show, they say, Joe Woods wants to run a certain type defense. And right now he just doesn't have those ingredients to do it. So, what I looked at was saying, okay, well, let me evaluate him on a more serious level when he gets everything that he needs, right? And so when you look at what they've been able to add is in terms of athleticism, period. The first thing is the athleticism, right? The Browns weren't a fast defense. They weren't a defense that could give you multiple looks. And they weren't a defense that could match up very well against some of the speedier people, whether that's a running quarterback, whether that's receivers who had the ability to get vertical. Now the Browns, you take a look at what they've done. You've been able to get that speed at every single level. They've upgraded the speed and athleticism at the other defensive end with Tat McKinley and Clowney on the opposite side of Myles Garrett. They've already upgraded the linebacker position with one of the most athletically gifted linebackers in JOK. They've done the same with John Johnson and Grant Delpit coming back. And then you have Newsome on the other corner, and then you have Greedy Williams and Delpit coming back as well. So the athleticism is there. The second thing that they did is they got multiple. They were able to do some things where now we just discussed people moving around interchangeable parts. Now you have an idea of whether you can disguise now. Now, before, you were just worried about just getting lined up. You get lined up, don't have any busts in the secondary. Don't let nobody run free. And can we spy Lamar Jackson? Like,
we were talking about communication for a long time.
Man, good gracious. A couple of weeks in a row, it was just like people just running free and going. It's one of those things where you have to have communication, but you also have to be on the same page in terms of, hey, if we're going to be blitzing, if we're going to be doing stuff tricky, don't out trick yourself. Some of the times you just need to come out here and line up. And if we can line up, that's a victory. Now, I don't think that's the problem. I think Joe Woods will have a lot of different people that he wants to play. I think he can get disguised some of his blitzes better. And I think more than often, I think one of the things you can do now is get pressure without blitzing the house and still, losing integrity in the back end as far as your coverage is going. So I think the defense will be great. I think it'll get better as the season progresses. However, there may be a couple hiccups in the beginning of the season because you have that many new people and new faces.
Definitely, definitely. All right, now let's do a lightning round for the rest of the picks. We got the two heavy hitters out the way. I'm going to give you a name that the Browns drafted. You give me a thumbs up, couple words on them,
Got you.
and tell me if you approve or disapprove. Third round pick, Anthony Schwartz, wide receiver out of Auburn.
Man, this is a big time approve. This is a big time approve. I just watched your blog the other day talking about where they gonna use him and what type of dude he's gonna be. Listen, man, love it. We now have a guy, and I know he's not Tyreek Hill. I know he's not some of these really fast guys that have production in the league. We still got to see what he's going to do. But listen, that level of speed now bumps everybody to where they want to go. Jarvis Landry can dominate and under the 7-yard routes, running pivot routes, running the slants. OBJ can now dominate in where he goes. He's a deep threat. But here's the thing. OBJ to me is from 15 to 25 yards he's one of the best guys in that range because he can catch the ball. He has a nice catch radius. He goes up and he gets the ball, and his route running ability in that range, I think is dominant. You got the tight ends that can get vertical like Njoku. You got Hunt guys out of the backfield. Now you have a guy that you can run those sweeps, those jet reverses, orbit motion, all that good stuff. And we got a guy that can just say, hey, look, play action. We want you to run past that dude.
Yeah.
Just go, match protect, go get it.
Most important thing, I don't know if I'm gonna get too technical here, but when you run the 4 vert, now you can bump Odell into the post instead of having him be the outside decoy guy. Have Schwartz run the decoy, and then you can have Jarvis in the slot running that inside kind of a curl hook, and it's gonna be something. It's gonna be something when the Browns now can go 4 vert because they have another X receiver on the roster. They have a lot of other good receivers now, but they're all Z or slot receivers. So it's always been that kind of an issue there. So I approve of that pick as well. 4th round, James Hudson III out of Cincinnati, the offensive tackle. Is that a pick you like, man?
I love the pick. You know why I love it? It is because he has what was written all over him. He's swing ability. They can put him at tackle. They can put him at guard. They can put him anywhere up front. And I think one of the things that I like a lot out of him is, in fact, he's a big time recruit. It's not just like he was at Cincinnati or whatever, but I mean, he's an ex-Michigan recruit. I love his athleticism. I love that build of an offensive lineman. See, when you get a lineman that looked like he played defensive line, see, them is the dudes you don't want a problem with. When I played, I always thought that, I'm a defensive end. I played basketball. So if I can beat guards off a dribble, I should be able to beat guards that play football. Like, I don't got to dribble a basketball. All I got to do is give you a move. I don't got to carry the ball. I don't got to dribble. So if you're an athlete, and defensive linemen know they athletes, right? We feel like we skill positions so key. That's why we want all the single digits. We want the numbers. But if you can get a guy who is a convert, he's a converted dude from the defensive side of the ball. To me, those were the most difficult guys because they have the athleticism, B, they know what you really want to do, and C, they feel like they athletes too. They feel like they playmakers up front. So you have a problem with those guys. You could put a little weight on them. They're versatile. You're not going to lose anything in terms of their footwork and their kick slide or pass sets if they're going to be on the outside, and they're physical enough to be in the inside. So I love the pick. I think he's going to be one of those guys that the Browns are going to use as a swing position, and I really think this might be the move. Hubbard is like, ooh, I don't like to see that. I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro.
All right, real quick here, was it Tony Fields, the next pick they got, the linebacker out of West Virginia?
Once again, I like the fact that the Browns they have a record. They have what they want to do. They have stuff on paper to say, this is what we want to do to get better. And this is the scheme that we're trying to run. Think about it. Athleticism, versatility. He's a guy that played out in Arizona, and was a guy in the Pac-12 that was still great at doing what he was doing. He played pretty much the same position as JOK did in terms of being at Arizona and at West Virginia, where he transferred his last year. So those guys, still can run, still doesn't give up much in the run game and the run support game, but you're used to playing space, used to being versatile, and they're those tweeners, right? Those tweener guys that want to make plays. And I think the Browns keep going at this and saying, this is the type of style we want to play. Even when we're looking at the depth pieces or pieces that we don't think we can get, we're looking to have those same skill sets. We're not just out here drafting people and going off topic. We're doing what we need to do from start to finish.
Richard LeCounte, safety out of Georgia.
Saw him and listen, he's another 5-star guy coming out of college and out of Georgia. I think he doesn't have, to me, if he had the top flight speed, if he had the explosive 40 time, I think he would have been a much higher pick because his production is there. And as you see, his playmaking ability is there. Go watch his stuff. He's making plays all over the field. As far as he's a hitter, he's a guy that, as a guy that is a ball hawk, he's a guy that is just not a hitter. He can go intercept the ball, and he's always seems to be around the ball. So if he had that, the elite speed at the safety, I think that was one of the reasons he slipped a little bit. But he's definitely a playmaker. He's a guy that I think can fill in on special teams. And I think the Browns are consistently saying, I know Grant Delpit got hurt. We need to figure out if we can still get some more versatile guys in here. Harrison is going to be a free agent next year. A lot of different things. So you need to be auditioning these guys for these positions in case there's something that goes wrong in terms of injuries or guys don't come back after next year.
Yeah, also I think he can do a lot of what Carl Joseph, because that's a similar kind of profile and player to Carl Joseph there. And the last guy, Demetric Felton, the running back / wide receiver out of UCLA, 6th-round pick.
This guy, I get the most energy I get that people love after, the JOK and the Newsomes, of course, is you always hear Schwartz, but this guy's name comes up just as much as anybody else from the draft. And when you look at him, he's just one of those guys that he just jumps out a little bit at you. His vision, a guy that's, undersized, but at the same time doesn't go down easy. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. He's one of those guys. I would call him. He's one of them dudes, them tweeners from Florida. They always got 2 or 3 of them. Whether it's Tony or was it Percy Harvin, or they always got these guys that they try to mix into the front. I think this guy can work at multiple different positions. I think he's going to be a dude who I wouldn't. When you see Nick Chubb go down, you see Kareem Hunt, mixed up a little bit. You saw what the Browns are able to do as far as their offensive line. They'll bring in the third back and get 100 yards. That's how they're giving it up front. This is a guy I think can do a little bit of both. They can move him out orbit motion, move him in motion, screen passes, different things like that. I really like the pick, and I actually think it's tough for those guys in the 6th, 7th round to make the team. I'd say that he has a pretty good chance of making his squad if he can solidify himself on one of the special team units.
Definitely. All right, we broke down all the draft picks here. G. Bush, if they love what they heard here today, let them know where to find you at, man.
Hey, man, if you want to get in and get into the barbershop, you know how we do. You want to line up, you want a little taper, you want a little fade. We can do all of that, man. You can check me out every single Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. If you missed the show, you can always rewind it up to 24 hours on the Odyssey app. Also, during the season, you can listen to me as well doing the Cleveland Browns pregame show. You can check that out. I usually on there from 8 to 11, 8 all the way up to kickoff with me, King Carmen, Anthony Lima. And if you want to just check it out and you want to check out G Bush Live or the Barbershop, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and you can take a look at that. And just subscribe on YouTube and search Garrett Bush, the Barbershop, and go ahead and take a look at that.
Yep. And I know everybody's like, hey, yo, barbershop. And people looking at me like, hey, look like you need to go to the barbershop. And look, I'm going today. I got my appointment. It's at 5. I'm about to be down there. Yeah, you know what I mean? I got it booked. I'm about to get my hair cut together. But we're going to continue to talk about the Browns. We're going to keep G. Bush on here for another part that's going to be coming up later tomorrow. I don't know how that one works, but later tomorrow. You guys can check that one out. We're going to be talking about what the expectations should be for the Browns. So if that sounds interesting to you guys and you don't want to miss that, subscribe, ding that notification bell so you don't miss that video when it is dropped tomorrow. But for now, have a great day. Have a good night.